how do you think they've done over the last 48 hours or so with their two acquisitions on the offensive line?
Well, on paper, I think they've done great. I think, especially, getting things done before free agency. The way it's set up with free agency coming before the draft, I think anything you could do before free agency begins is a real bonus, especially when you have kind of the momentum the Bears have with Ben Johnson and just the way things are going. So I thought, I think I told Pat Finley, my colleague, yesterday, that tactically these moves are, I think, outstanding. It just depends on just how good is their judgment, and that's been the big question for Ryan Poles. And he's been aggressive before, but the judgment really has not really worked out. And I think that's why I think that we're having both these guys, Tooney and Jackson, having them both with them both having connections to the Bears, to Ben Johnson and to Ryan Poles. I think that makes it, even though there are certainly question marks over both those guys, I think that gives you a little more, feeling that these have a better chance of working out than some of the moves before. And of course, Tooney being a really good player, that helps too. So I think tactically, I think it's excellent. I thought it was really good and just kind of continues that momentum that they've had ever since they kind of broke the bank to get Ben Johnson. These things, it kind of works like that, and things keep going your way, and that's what's going to have to happen to really change everything that's going on at Hallis Hall. Like how I've always say this about everybody who steps in there, about Ben Johnson. He's got to change Hallis Hall before Hallis Hall changes him, and it looks like he's doing it because his impact is making the Bears. It made the Bears more aggressive to get him, and it's making the Bears more aggressive in fixing the one thing that they need most, which is the offensive line. So already you're seeing the difference. I don't know if they do this for Luke Getsy or for Shane Waldron, but they're doing it for Ben Johnson, and that's what you get for paying $12-13 million a year for a coach.
And that's where I was going to go, Potsy. I don't think the Jonah Jackson trade even takes place without the familiarity with Ben Johnson. And one of my hopes was when they hired Ben Johnson is he was going to be an enormous asset for Ryan Poles in the evaluation of different talent. Him not being a head coach obviously was a question mark for people, but do you have a certain comfort level when you see them make a trade like they did for Jonah Jackson that maybe you wouldn't have had the same level of confidence if this was done prior to Ben Johnson being hired?
Well, I don't think to the first part of your point, Tom, I don't think there's any way that Poles can make this move with all the issues he's had with getting offensive linemen who get hurt and have injury histories or end up having injury problems. There's almost no way he can do that without Ben Johnson's seal of approval. I agree with you 100% there. I will say this though, I'm still in. I've got to see it to believe it mode with the Bears and with Ben Johnson. So no, I'm not going to say it makes. Like I said, it makes me feel a little better about give me a little more confidence. Maybe 51-49 that it has a chance to work out. But we still have to kind of see what happens and see if he can kind of break that whatever it is of guys just having injury problems and not panning out on the offensive line that they've had.
Well, Potsy, we were giving the history over the last 30 years or so over edge rushers that the Bears have not been able to land through the draft. They tried with Leonard Floyd, and he's had a good career, but most of it has come since he's left the building. He wasn't great when he was here. And I know you and I were starting off on the beat almost at the same time. The Bears went after Phillip Daniels in free agency. Then they go after who was there in the middle? Adewale Ogunleye, they trade for with Marty Booker. Then they make the Julius Peppers signing. Then they trade for Khalil Mack. And like all their draft picks along the way, even in the first round, Michael Haynes and others, a lot of them weren't productive. So if I gave you the opportunity to use the number 10 overall pick on a trade package for Trey Hendrickson, who now can seek a trade, and Dennis Allen was his former head coach or former defensive coordinator, or go after Myles Garrett in a package, would you rather do that, or would you rather take another stab at a defensive lineman with the 10th overall pick?
Yeah, I don't know if I trust them to get a defensive lineman or certainly an edge rusher when they really need, and I don't mean to get too far off track, or when they really need, they need immediate help. I mean, the Bears need to be good pretty quickly, and so they don't need even a first-round guy who might take a year or two to get. I think they need to get a veteran guy, somebody who's proven. And so, yeah, I guess for Myles Garrett, absolutely. Absolutely. The first-round draft pick would be in play. Trey Hendrickson, I think I guess it depends on what the Bears' homework says, how much he has left, how good he actually is. I mean, he's very productive, but I don't know, Myles Garrett just seems like a no-brainer, and Trey Hendrickson's like, well, let's do a little bit of homework on that. But I would lean more towards using that pick, because I just think they need to get another edge rusher, and you're probably not going to get that kind of help in the draft, the help that you need. I think it might be true, like the last double-digit sack guy that they actually drafted was Mark Anderson.
Yeah, that's what we were saying.
That might be true. Yeah.
His rookie year, and then Alex Brown was good that they drafted in the 4th round, but we were having a tough time coming up with drafted and developed players for the Bears at the edge position.
Yeah, even Trace Armstrong was probably he was good for the Bears, but wasn't he also better after he left?
Yeah,
I mean,
he was better in Miami.
Yeah. They've always struggled with that ever since, they had Dent, one of the best of all time, in the 8th round.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, their luck, that was a totally different regime. That was the Jim Finks era.
Yes.
So,
Potsy,
big difference.
Do you expect them to sign Drew Dahlman? Do you believe that they are interested in addressing the center position in much the same way aggressively? This time it would be just free agency cash in the manner in which they added guards?
I don't have inside info on that, but I do expect them, based on what they've done, the aggressiveness they've done, and how they've kind of recognized that, yes, they can't screw this up again, and they have to get it right for this coach because, as everybody knows, that's the big difference between what Ben Johnson had in Detroit and what he has in Chicago is the offensive line. That's the one. That's the one thing. If you look back at what he started with in Detroit, those guys weren't all pros when he got them, and so, but they are now. But when he started, it's pretty comparable to what he's got to work with in Chicago. In most positions, in some positions, you could say he's even better off. But it's the offensive line. So I think the Bears recognize that, and based on that, I think that's definitely a possibility. That might not be something you do when you're more established or whatever. But I think this whole thing that since the end of the last season, I think they've been motivated by kind of desperation, and I think they've recognized that, hey, they've got to do something now.
And they've got a quarterback on a rookie contract, which gives them flexibility.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But I think the way last year ended and the way everything went last year, I think they realized that they have to do something, and that's why I say I don't know if their approach has changed. I think their motivation has changed. I think they're desperate, and that's why they went after somebody they would have never gone after, which is paying a guy like Ben Johnson $12-13 million a year. That's something they previously, maybe even a year before, they might not have done that, but now they do. So just based on that kind of recognizing that they've got to do something, it would certainly not surprise me, and I would almost expect it that they would do that, because that would be one of the most celebrated centers to sign if the Bears get him, just based on what you see on social media about what the fans want. That would be that would be like another team signing a quarterback.
Yeah, hey, you're right about that.
I want him like I want my next gulp of water or air
or beer. Yeah, that's how you would.
Yeah, that's the way people feel about it, and it's a center, but that's become very important. And that would really, if they did that, they got Dahlman. That would legitimately be, at least on paper, certainly like the Commanders. Fixing your offensive line in one off season, kind of deal. So I think it would be rightfully celebrated if they could do that. It's just a question of where they want to put their money. Right. I think that's the theme. They want to help Ben Johnson as much as they can. That's why all these moves so far have been offense. And I think the secondary thing at free agency will be that edge rusher or getting one of the veteran guys. But I think they're definitely they are totally geared towards help for. They've acknowledged that the two most important people in their organization are Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson. I think that's a good thing. I think even though they say defense wins championships, I think offense helps the Bears.
Really quick, Potsy, before we let you go, weigh in on our poll question. What happens first? And I'm giving you three choices. A Chicago team wins the championship, a new stadium opens in Chicago, or a Chicago athlete wins the most valuable player.
I would say I'd say a new stadium opens.
That's what most people are going with, 54.3%.
Yeah, I would say a new stadium opens. Although, the stadiums, they take a while. You could be a surprise champion in some sports in a hurry, but the stadium is a definite, a defined length of time. But I take the safe route, the safe pick, and I'd say the stadium. I think there's momentum for that too, and I think they're going to end up in Arlington Heights.
That's basically like saying
later.
It's like saying that that's going to take 5-6 years, 6 years, let's say. That nobody trusts that an athlete in town will win an MVP or a team will win a championship in less than 6 years. That's where people are at right now on the poll question, I think.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I picked that, because who are the candidates to win an MVP?
Tucker, maybe this year. Who knows? I mean, he's really, really good. I think Connor Bedard, if he grows into the hype a little bit better. Caleb,
yeah, could be.
You pick him number one for a reason. Don't give me that look.
How about Caleb Williams?
That's what I said, and he gave me a look. Can you believe that, Potsy?
No, the Bears' offense could end up being pretty good. So you never know.
Potsy, great
but
stuff.
I still like the stadium.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time.